Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Now, coming up in our Crypto Frontier segment, brought to you by CCP Digital, we are joined by Chris Pulley, who serves as CEO of CCP Digital. They are a decade-old digital advertising agency with very unique access and knowledge in the blockchain and cryptocurrency industries. Today, he is joined by Robby Yung, CEO of Animoca Brands. And for those unfamiliar, Animoca is a global leader in blockchain games headquartered in Hong Kong. They are strongly aligned in their vision for audience interactivity and rewards with the future of digital entertainment. And today we are chatting about blockchain gaming, play to earn models, what the monetization incentives look like for gamers, the importance of the communities surrounding these platforms, and how it all ties into the metaverse. Now, in recent news, Cross the Ages, which is a free to play game that features digital trading cards as NFTs, recently announced a 12 million seed round. Investors, not surprisingly, included Animoca Brands, major game publisher Ubisoft, Polygon, which is the blockchain powering the game, and Sebastian Bourget, COO of The Sandbox. Yup, they were all part of that round. All of this is very, very telling of a rising industry. Now, blockchain gaming is a flourishing area of the crypto industry, which is actually more and more viewed as a clever way to bring the next big wave of people into crypto. And in January, the number of active blockchain games had doubled from the prior year. Since it's become clear that cryptocurrency isn't its only use case, blockchain is now disruptive tech. With its game-changing applications, no pun intended, experts say gaming will be one of the main real use cases for blockchain. And if you think of it strategically, blockchain could completely restructure the industry, turn the tables on the monopolistic console market, create a multiverse, and make games more immersive than ever. The stream of blockchain investing has dramatically increased. In 2019, we've already seen over $108 million in venture capital investments. And the use for blockchain within gaming's realm, in a word, is liquidity. And here to chat some more are Chris Pulley and Robby Yung. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Robby, I'm going to start with you. Blockchain's application, right, in gaming is in many ways a no-brainer because gamers are already accustomed to tokenization. And some of the earliest games featured applications of virtual currency. Games evolved and fused with the internet as a result of that. And now in-game gold and items can be purchased with real-life fiat currency. This could be particularly useful for the free-to-play model popularized by Fortnite, wherein the majority of gaming revenue is generated by in-game purchases, right, like skins, funded by digital currency. Talk to me about this model, and is there an Animoca token in the works?
Sure. So I think this is something that gamers are very familiar with. As you said, the freemium or free-to-play model has been around for more than a decade. And people have always, in the last 10 or 15 years, spent money to buy virtual currency in a game and then used that virtual currency to buy virtual items. That's how games make money. And whether it's on console or PC or mobile, this is become the de facto business model for the game industry. And that's one of the reasons that we were very excited about this idea of pivoting to blockchain 5 years ago, because blockchain really allows us to codify this structure in a way that that's never been able to be done before. It allows you to tokenize both that in-game currency as well as those in-game items as NFTs, and make them not only extremely secure, but able to be transacted peer-to-peer. And that's very important because it basically explodes the model of the centralized game where the game developer, publisher is the one that controls the entire ecosystem. Because once you tokenize all the assets in the game, then individual players have true digital ownership of their items, and they can then transact those items on, within the game or in any third-party marketplace they like. So they have the power to do what they like with their own stuff. They actually own it for the first time rather than just renting it.
for the first time rather than just renting it. I love that. Very wise words. And obviously, when you look at the success of Epic Games' Fortnite, right, that could be a premonition of blockchain's success with gaming, because Fortnite earned 2.4 billion in 2018, making it the highest grossing game in history. And free to play games in general made up 80% of all global gaming revenue in 2018 on consoles. Free to play titles grossed about 458% more in 2018 than in 2017. So even stats from 5 years ago were that strong. So that is extremely telling. So I'm going to shift to Chris now. Chris, overall, the global market for NFTs swelled to $25 billion last year from 100 million in 2020. So that's a huge leap. And a fifth of that comes from video games. Much of the action has occurred in places like the Philippines, where low income players have embraced this play to earn model that can net them a steady income of a few dollars a day. And this is, in fact, blockchain gaming at its best. Talk to me about the earning incentives these play to earn models generate in income for the gamers.
Yes, thank you. And something that just struck me as you were, laying the landscape here was how the free to play games were making so many billions of dollars. It just sounds funny, right? The free to play is making that much money. So I hope the audience catches on to that. Just because it's free to play doesn't mean people aren't spending a lot of money on those games.
I'm so glad you pointed that out. Vibing. We're vibing.
And so it's really important to understand that, especially as a parent whose credit card has been absolutely hammered by the free to play games, on my end, that understanding that this play to earn space, and giving the players the ability to take their game items in a game to another game, sell an item, is really teaching responsibility to some degree, especially in my communities, as I've been educating on the play to earn, and the ability to monetize the game, and the game play. So I think that my thing I'm most excited about is what you described in these third world countries, and places that this is new revenue opportunities, all the way to the point where we're looking for the guilds that allow players to match up with someone that may own assets, to allow for gameplay and share those assets with players from around the world, and allow them to use those assets to earn income.
Exactly, because essentially at this point right now, and to highlight this statistics, we have about 1.4 billion people that are unbanked and or underbanked, and this is surely paving the way for that population and providing a real means of income for many. And all you need is a smartphone to trade crypto and start gaming and start earning. But just be mindful of the clock right now, because we're at about 6 minutes, and I want to hear so much more from Robby. Robby, consider the Sandbox, a mobile game that you, as Animoca, acquired in 2018 and transformed into a blockchain product, right? A player can purchase a virtual piece of land for about $4,000, fill it with custom buildings, objects, characters, and flip it for a higher price just by putting the time in. And Animoca participates in the fee every time they're traded, right? So the Sandbox also has its own game currency called Sand that corresponds with real world value, and its market cap is currently 4.5 billion. And essentially the connectivity is what you are feeding, and the sense of accomplishment bona fide with in-game rewards propels the experience. Talk to me about the power of the online communities created within these games.
Sure. I think we talk a lot about community, and sometimes it's an overused word in our particular industry, but that's at the heart of what makes these type of blockchain games successful. Because what the metaverse is at the end of the day is it's an online community that brings people together from disparate geographic locations through shared interests. The Sandbox is a perfect example of this, because the Sandbox is a place where people share their love of being creators. Because the Sandbox at its heart, similar to other user-generated content environments like Roblox or Minecraft, is a place where people can express themselves through the experiences that they create within the game. So it relies on the users creating stuff rather than just us. And that's really exciting because, of course, users are always more creative, as you know, than the developers themselves. And so people can create everything in there, from other game experiences to art galleries to just showing off their collection of NFTs. They can do what they like. It's their space. But the beauty of having blockchain underlying it as technology is it provides an economic underpinning to the whole platform, which means that users can monetize their creations. They can gate access to a virtual theme park that they create on their land. They can sell things in an e-commerce fashion, digital goods from their storefronts, or they can simply build condominiums and develop it as a real estate developer in the metaverse, as you would in the physical world. So I think the beauty of it is that it's really up to the imaginations of the users what they want to create. And the key ingredient is community, because as long as people are spending time there, that's what gives it value. It's the reason that New York City real estate is more expensive than real estate in smaller cities, because there's a concentration of community and people that creates demand for that real estate and demand for adjacent real estate. And we see these effects happening in the virtual world just the same way that they happen in the physical world.
So well said. You just buttoned it up in one statement right there. I mean, that New York City comparison really does say it all, and that's the truth. And also to highlight, Animoca Brands has stakes in most of the world's largest and most successful NFT businesses, including OpenSea, which is the largest NFT marketplace with an estimated 2021 revenues of 375 million. And in mid-January, Animoca Brands, another kudos to you guys, raised nearly 360 million at a valuation of 5.4 billion, more than doubling your previous mark of 2.2 billion from October. So we love to highlight brands like this. Now I'm going to pivot to Chris. We have about 2 minutes left. Chris, this is a little bit more complex, so maybe we'll get the support of Robby on this one too. You could both pipe in. But according to a survey by a Worldwide Asset Exchange, which is a blockchain platform focused on virtual items, 62% of gamers would be more likely to invest in digital assets if they were transferable between games. And 84% of developers would create in-game items for the same reason. What do you say to the perhaps fact that the economics of an open metaverse or an interchangeable collection of virtual worlds works against the game companies? For instance, if Call of Duty sold you some weapons, Ubisoft doesn't want you bringing them into Rainbow Six because that eats away at their items, at their sale items. What do you say to this? You have about a minute.
I'm going to have to figure out the question. So I think
Robby, did you understand
Sure.
it? Okay, thank you. You'll answer.
I think basically the idea is that you have to be open to the idea that the market will grow so much more that you'd rather have a smaller piece of a bigger pie. Because at the end of the day, what we have in games now is a monopolistic industry which constrains the growth. Think of it from the user perspective. Would you pay more money every month for a mortgage or for rent? If it's a mortgage, you think of it as ownership and you're willing to pay more. If it's rent, it just goes out the door every month and you think, I'm going to pay as little as I possibly can because it doesn't make economic sense. It's the same thing with digital content you own.
So we do think that the game companies will jump on board and actually want this interchangeable
Absolutely, because you'd rather have 5% of something that's 10 times bigger than 30% of something that's 10 times smaller.
Very true. Very true. Okay. So that is about it right now. I want to thank the two of you for coming on. Another very insightful session. These are one of the most popular sessions, Crypto Frontier. So Robby, thank you so much. Chris, always a pleasure.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Guys, listen, Bill Gates describes blockchain as a technological tour de force. NASDAQ CEO Bob Greifeld says it's the biggest opportunity set we can think of over the next decade. Now, if the Gates and the Greifelds of the world are right, blockchain's effects will be foundational, immediate, and overwhelmingly positive. Make sure you guys check out Animoca Brands and CCP Digital on the internet and on the gram. Make sure you check out Robby Yung, CEO of Animoca Brands, at View from HF and at Animoca Brands. Of course, Chris Pulley is also on the gram and on Twitter at CCP Digital and at Coach Pulley. That was our Crypto Frontier segment brought to us by CCP Digital. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back, friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. We're chatting with Chris Pulley, CEO of CCP Digital, and Robby Yung, who is CEO of Animoca Brands. This is our Crypto Frontier segment, and we are talking gaming, where the world is headed, where Animoca Brands is going to take us in the next couple of years, and how these CEOs see the future. Chris, welcome back. Robby, pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's a great start there. Where is Animoca going to take us, Robby? What does the next couple of years look like? And even more pointed, how do you see the entertainment industry fitting in? I mean, we've seen Snoop Dogg enter the sandbox, and we're seeing entertainers. I'm thinking, how does the industry start to fit into this, and what does Animoca
Sure.
forecast?
I think one of the things I think I'm most optimistic about is that we've made a tremendous amount of progress in the last, particularly 18 months, that, a lot of public attention has been focused on our industry. So we see such incredible growth of new products coming out. You mentioned Snoop, obviously, in the sandbox. And I think we're going to see not just more of these kind of collaborations with celebrities, entertainers, athletes, etc., but I think we're going to see a lot more platform plays, meaning a lot more people's takes on bringing the music industry into the metaverse, bringing the Hollywood/film industry into the metaverse, and by association, all the international flavors of that, Bollywood and K-pop and et cetera, because at the end of the day, the metaverse is a big place, and there are going to be many, many different cities in the metaverse. And I think we're only just scratching the surface now with products like the Sandbox, which kind of hint at what the future will bring us.
Yeah, well said. I mean, those are all great points. And when you look at where the technology is headed, if I always say to people, Web 1 and Web 2, that's a thing of the past. You need to start thinking about where you will be and live in the infrastructure and the ecosystem of Web 3 as a brand and as a business. And the worst thing that you can do is not be part of it. So I think with the development of where we are headed with respect to cryptocurrency, the metaverse, these digital assets, the pathway out of poverty, for instance, through digital assets and ownership, being able to address real world issues, being able to not only have gamers feel good about themselves, but now earn income. This is all a very transformative, revolutionary take on doing things in a brand new, fresh way. And I think that's at the core of Animoca Brands. I mean, that's my take.
Yeah, well, I think, and also one thing people underestimate is that major technological change, consumer adoption of major technologies generally comes through entertainment rather than financial services or other things. People don't buy a smartphone because they can do online banking. They buy it because they want to listen to music and play games and have entertainment. And this is true of everything from flat screen TVs to video cassette recorders. It's all about entertainment typically. And so we view gaming as kind of the tip of the spear for blockchain adoption, because we think that mass consumer audiences will be onboarded to blockchain through games as the leading entertainment platform. But the cool thing about blockchain is because they're open and composable assets, because it's essentially an open source movement, we don't have to limit ourselves just to games. We can interconnect with music content and video content and DeFi and financial applications, etc. So I think we're going to have a much more rich ecosystem thanks to having all of this interconnected.
Oh, without a doubt. And creating more realistic economic systems within games is also at the top of that list, and shifting the definition of a successful game away from revenue and toward in-game currency value, and thereby like refocusing game development efforts to benefit players is such an important topic and conversation to have as developers. And really, when you think about incentivizing players by offering dividends and granting them a vote in development processes, this is revolutionary. You're now changing the paradigm, and you're also fixing this the high cost, low revenue problems of cloud gaming initiatives like Sony's PS Now, right? But by distributing the server over a blockchain network, that changes all of that. But these are the types of things that companies are not at the forefront of. So you guys are the leaders in this. And of course, Chris Pulley, thank you so much for bringing on the most brilliant guests that are just going to be so well received, because the WOR listenership is extremely important, and they are very, very into blockchain, cryptocurrency, and all of these technologies. So thanks, Chris.
Thank you. And thank you, Robby. I know your time is limited. It was, we really appreciate you coming on.
Of course. Honestly, anything for WR. I actually grew up listening to this station.
Oh, no.
We've been on the air for 100 years, and I was proud to say.
No, I'm not 100. I'm not 100.
No, but we have been. I'm not 100 either. I'm a millennial mom, but we've been on the air for 100 years, and I was one of the featured radio hosts that is revolutionizing and digitizing radio, and really allowing the platform to not just be your typical radio access, but really taking radio and spinning it off into all of these platforms and verses, so to speak. But out of 13,000 radio hosts total in the US, there's less than 18% of us that are women. So I take my job very seriously.
Fabulous. Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you, Zen.
Absolutely. That was our Crypto Frontier segment, brought to us by CCP Digital. That was CEO of CCP Digital, Chris Pulley, and his good friend, Robby Yung, CEO of Animoca Brands. So insightful the two of them were. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back after this.